Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is the 26th of May of 2021. I'm Nick here with Chris. It's a manga day.
Yeah. Although, when manga resides in your heart, every day is a manga day. Yeah.
And if you don't bleed black and white in tones of gray, then you just gotta wait for Wednesdays. You know, those are the manga associated days, I'm sure, for people, because that's when we talk about manga. You know,
nothing else happens on Wednesdays. Particularly this Wednesday, nothing else is happening.
True. It's like the first time in years we had to be like, damn, I'm missing out on wrestling.
Well, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm missing out on basketball I could be mildly interested in. I've been...
Like, who are these players?
I've been reading Kuroko no Basket recently.
Okay.
And it's quickly reminded me about how little I know about the sport of basketball at all, because they started explaining the positions, and I sat there for a moment, and I was like, oh, what position Michael Jordan was? Oh, shooting guard. I know what position Kobe Bryant was. Oh, shooting guard. I wonder what position LeBron James is. Oh, shooting guard. Basically, all the big ones were shooting guards. It's like, okay, this makes, it's all starting to come together.
I think that people have said that like LeBron should not be a shooting guard based on his size or something like that, but whatever. Like, I mean, I
have no idea. I typed what was blank position, and Google told me they were all shooting guards except for Shaq, and I was like, he's a center, I believe. They have to be the big tall ones.
Small forward. He's the guy that he mobily feeds the offense.
Yeah. Shaq, that's what he's been known for, is his mobility.
God. Kuroko no Basket, replicate exactly, but with Shaquille O'Neal and Kuroko's place.
Where did he go? It's just they literally in the shadow of the man. Oh, well, you snuck up on me. Like, are you sure? Because the scene was shaking for several minutes until he got there.
Like, you just like do one of the like dramatic zoom is like, where did they go? I can't track them anymore. Meanwhile, a shadow is looming.
Just stomping away with the ball. Got it.
All right, it's time for one of my signature assist plays. That's an assist, right?
Just destroying a gymnasium.
Oh man, it sounds great. I'm gonna do this.
Someone has to start writing it. You have first dibs. No one else can.
Oh man. Guys, we have manga to talk about this week. It is most of our usual series, plus a few of our irregular stuff. I have not been in a very good Black Cat reading mood, unfortunately, recently, so I need to catch up on that still. But we should be ready to cover that next week, I think. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now. Yeah, new recommendation next time. Black Cat next time. We're going to go through our regular series, and we're going to kick off with My Hero Academia. It's chapter number 313, High Speed Long Range Mobile Cannon, which sounds like a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
I was going to say, it's either a Yu-Gi-Oh card or a 40k unit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it were a Yu-Gi-Oh card, it would be like High Speed Long Range Mobile Cannon and then a really stupid name after that.
Yeah, again, that's the same thing. That's the same thing with 40k. You just add Necronite or some bullshit behind it.
Ziggurat.
Exactly.
Ziggurat. That's a great idea.
Ziggurat.
Speaking of silly names, we find out at the beginning of this chapter that the souped up car that All Might's driving around is called Hercules.
Did your parents ever name their cars when you were a kid?
Not really. When my mom got a Mustang when I was a teenager, one of her friends suggested calling it Eduardo. But I don't think that ever actually stuck. So
my mom named all of her cars, and she kept giving them these very ambitious names like
Sure.
Faith and Hope, and every
Oh,
one of those cars died in like a year. It started reaching the point where you're just like, adequate, just call this car adequate and see if it lasts over a year.
hmm my last car, I had it for a long time, starting in high school, and my friend named it Jethro, and I was like, I'll stick with that. It's a pretty nice, straightforward name. And I actually call my current car Dongo after Fandango from WWE,
Oh, okay.
with the logic of it thinks that it's sexy, but it's really just weird, because it's this really weird orange, like somewhere halfway between a car and an SUV. So,
It was a very eclectic car. I like it.
yeah. And it's like it's even weirder once you like sit inside of it because like the dashboard looks really weird.
So
So
see, All Might's not so strange after all.
I didn't call my car Hercules, okay?
Well, I'd only accept it if you call your car that, but every time you refer to it, you do it in the Hercules, Hercules kind of cadence.
So he's having this dramatic chase scene. Is like any car besides Hercules would have been blown away.
No, he has to say it twice. Hercules, Hercules. I do it twice.
Or he'll like try and finish the sentence, and then he has to like would have been blown to bits. Hercules, just like fit it in.
Squeeze it in later. That's fine. Look, just like when Chris Jericho interrupted Booker T trying to say, "Can you dig it, sucker?" and an hour and a half of Raw passed before Booker T came back and finished the sucker line. It's fine as long as it gets completed.
That sounds amazing.
It's great. You waited the entire thing, and then right before Jericho's match, Booker T just shows up, sucker! Booker T was the best.
That's beautiful. I wish that like wrestling would like do that more. It's like, hey, we set up something in the first half of the episode. Let's do something in the second half of the episode that pays it off.
I think they
reward people for watching the show.
I think and we're on such a random tangent at this point, but it's fine.
Go ahead.
I like to believe that it like the higher ups at WWE don't actually believe people watch Raw. They believe pod people are birthed and spawned in each hour of the show. So by the time hour 2 shows up, it's a completely different audience that's watching as opposed to the first hour, and the third hour is the same.
I'm sure that occasionally someone pops up and is like, shouldn't we like, try and retain the audience segment to segment? And then someone's just like, look at the numbers we do on YouTube. And they're like, okay, fine. So.
All right, another Bobby Lashley cucking storyline.
There you go.
Fine.
Yeah. Fine. I guess we'll just keep on making YouTube ad revenue and then that will, so. Anyway, the reason that he is referring to his car as Hercules is that All Might is being attacked by the people who chucked the freaking grenade at his car before. And fortunately, this is basically the Batmobile, so it's survived it just fine. And the guys jump out in order to attack him, and All Might's immediately like, I sense clear murderous intent. I mean, yeah, they threw a grenade at your car. I mean, that kind of ruins any chance of actually robbing stuff if you do that. So All Might realizes that what's going on is that they are trying to draw him away from Deku, and he immediately concludes like he's being targeted by an assassin, so he's in danger. He then jumps out of the armored vehicle because it's apparently not armored enough. It'll survive a grenade just fine, but if you throw a spear at it, oh boy.
It looks like it's like a rocket-propelled spear, so I mean there is that.
And it penetrates the windshield. So, and then of course, since he jumped out of the car, he goes off and crashes. The guys who attack him recognize him as All Might, but immediately one of them is like, "Well, come on, he's lost all his power. The real All Might died a long time ago." So they're like, "All right, yeah, let's kill this guy." But All Might just starts to get up after throwing himself out of a moving vehicle, by the way. And he just says, "Stand aside." And immediately they hesitate. And All Might flashes back to when he promised Inko that he would protect Deku with his own life. And All Might stands up and says that Deku has borne much more than I have ever, a burden I forced on him. And still he idolizes me. the day anything happens to that kid is the day I die. And the guys who have attacked him see this skinny scarecrow man standing up and talking shit, and they fall on their asses in terror. So this is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
There's still quite a bit of the old All Might in him. So Deku's come up with a plan to fight Lady Nagant, which is I'll just bum rush her and I'll dodge around so she can't shoot me. All right, fair enough. But as he is approaching her and he's trying to like serpentine between buildings and stuff, suddenly a bullet comes streaking towards him from behind. He has to whip around and kick it out of the air. And then while he's still in the follow-through motion of doing that, another bullet nearly hits him from below and grazes across his torso. And immediately Deku's like, how the hell did this happen? How did a bullet come at me from behind? I knew her position. And then she realizes, oh, right. All for One gave her another quirk. And we see that Lady Nagant's new quirk, Airwalk, is pretty much exactly how it sounds. She can just walk across the air. So, very useful for repositioning. And Deku realizes the contrary to his expectations, which were, I'll bum rush the sniper so that, I can deal with her up close. He's actually let himself into even more danger because being closer means that she can fire stuff at him more rapidly. And she has more control over the directions the bullets can take because she can curve them around in a tighter space. So Deku decides that the next thing he needs to do is change up his tactics. So he launches himself towards the ground, uses the 6th One for All wielder's quirk to lay out a smoke screen. And as he does this, ghosts in his head start talking to him. And while I have to cut myself off here to say, while this conversation is going on, because essentially they're just discussing tactics with him, I went, please don't make this a thing. Because if this happens in every Deku fight scene, or even every important Deku fight scene from now on, this is going to get really boring and annoying. Just having people show up and be like, well, I think you should do this, or oh, be careful about this. And it's just going to be like, peanut gallery stuff in his own head for characters we don't really give a shit about.
I was going to say, it's like the sports manga bench section, but all inside Deku's mind, constantly talking, who's just like, wait a minute, you're going to use that technique? Like, hey guys, no one else can hear us. We don't have to be vague. We can just say whatever we want.
I mean, it's a pretty, common thing in a lot of shonen action series of all ilks to have like someone explaining what's going on as it's happening. But, within the series itself, at least when like, Aizawa's observing the class, or All Might is observing Deku, or one of Deku's classmates is observing him, or whatever. It's like, all right, at least I know who this character is and like give a shit about them, as opposed to, all right, here's this other ghost in his head that we don't really know a whole lot about other than what we've been told about them. So, and that we're not really going to see it, much from other than their interactions with him. So, yeah. Deku decides that the next thing he needs to do is start using a third quirk simultaneously, which is not something that he has been doing up until this point. He's just been using his kind of general One for All abilities in conjunction with one quirk at a time from the other wielders. But he's going to add a third one, and in addition to that, he's going to use one that he doesn't have mastery of. And everyone's kind of telling him this is a bad idea, and he's like, yeah, I've got to do it right now, though, because I can't afford it.
But Aang, you haven't mastered waterbending yet. You can't attempt something on that level.
Yeah. They're telling you, oh, you're not ready for this. It's like, I have to be, though. Shonen.
It's been literally a month and a half since I unveiled a new power. People will be getting bored.
Yeah. Deku is going to use the third's quirk, Fa Jin, which I don't really have any idea what that could possibly mean. And we don't really get an idea of what it does when he uses it in this chapter. So, if he uses it for that matter. We cut to Lady Nagant, who is floating up in the air. It's kind of a cool shot because we see that because, the sniper rifle is growing out of her arm, that she also can manipulate where the scope goes. So it's kind of going all the way backwards up into her eye so that she can comfortably hold it in different positions. It's a cool detail. So she's been under the impression this whole time, oh, Deku's hiding in the smoke screen, so I'll just be able to spot him when he comes out of it. So she fires at the first thing she sees coming out of it, but it's a decoy. Deku took some of his clothes off. Oh no. So she starts to think, well, what is he up to? But she just kind of moves her gun arm around in quick succession and just kind of fires at anything that she sees that's coming out of the smoke screen. But it's like his backpack, his mask, his scarf thing. And she's determined not to let him get away. But then there is a rumble sound effect, and Deku suddenly is bursting up out of a building and comes out through the roof and grabs her non-gun arm and says, "Too bad I'm not in the smoke."
Oh shit!
Yeah, it's a cool action shot because of it's a really interesting pose that they're in and a cool angle that you're seeing it from. And you do kind of put together okay, the smoke screen went out through some buildings. He used that to get into one of the buildings and then come up through that. Cool. I have no idea what this whole third quirk thing was about, though, because there's no way of telling what the fuck he did.
Well, Fajin is a term used in Chinese martial arts. Essentially, think like Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch, like a hyper compression of discharging power, kind of explosively, which kind of feels unnecessary when he already has
super strength.
Yeah. Because it looks like he just jumps up straight through the building. That's the way the art kind of seems to make it look, because he explodes out of the roof. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Maybe it's a way to combine it to move very, very quickly. Maybe this is their way of justifying him getting an instant transmission or a flash step or, whatever fucking thing you need to.
I'm sure this is going to be one of those things where it's well, listen, I had to come up with 7 other quirks, okay? How many can I put in this kid? Let's see. So he's got spider webs and he's got spider sense. What else does Spider-Man do? Teleport? Okay.
I'm sure in some variation. He has a magic motorcycle. That's not Spider-Man. Also, how was that a quirk?
Well, in a certain storyline, there was a spider shaking.
But it talks to him. It's, this is a fine chapter. It's one of those things. It's a little sad that the Gran Torino cloak seems to be gone already, that he threw that. I mean, I guess it's just a bullet hole, but hopefully that actually managed to stick around, because I thought that was aesthetically a nice piece to tie his outfit together. Mm-hmm. But, it generally is, it works, Lady Nagant looked cool, and then she was defeated, presumably.
Yeah. I mean, it's overall an all right chapter. The standout for me is the stuff with All Might at the beginning.
I will say that I have been digging the aesthetic of this battle at night in the rain. Mm-hmm. It has been giving a nice contrast shade to all the action with this dark background and everything like that. I do really enjoy that.
Yeah, it's all looked cool.
Mm-hmm. All right, Nick, let's talk about Undead Unluck. Number 64. As it stands, I am. So we pick up where we left off last time, where Shen is saying to Mui, "Could you be a deer and kill me?" And there was a lot of discussion about what that means. Mm-hmm. And the answer is, he means it exactly as literally as he says, "You need to kill me."
But we're going to cheat.
Yeah. So basically he describes that, hey, Andy, Fuko, I need you guys to get the prayer bead artifact that Fang has on him. And then once you do, give it to Mui. And then Mui, you're going to kill me while holding those beads, and I'll become a Jiangshi, and then I'll be able to do your bidding. I'll be back stronger. I like, she immediately is like, no, you'll become one of the, a soldier of war with no will of your own. Besides, no one really knows what happens after you become a Jiangshi. Like, what will we do? And it wouldn't be a matter of bringing you back to life. Let's find a way to heal you instead. I brought these pills. They're restorative artifacts I made for my own life force. And he's just like, Mui might do it. Those only work when they're digested, and I love it as he just points. He's like, and as you see, I have a gigantic gaping hole in my chest cavity, so I don't think it's gonna work. So Mui starts crying and just says, "Why did you bother to save me? Ever since you took me in, I've been nothing but trouble for you, and I've done nothing, not a single thing for you in return." And Shen just says, "Why did I save you?" And he starts thinking. He says, "Listen, Mui, untruth's activation requirement. What do you think it is?" And she says, "It's when you see a strong person who makes you want to fight them." He's like, "Yeah, that's what I thought at first too, but that's not what it is." And we go into a flashback of Shen having all these scenes happen before him, and he says, "I've been living in a small world this whole time. Just me, my murdered sister, and the man who killed her," which would make for a great sitcom on ABC, I think.
Me, my murdered sister, and the man who killed her.
Yeah. He just says, "My world consisted of those 3 rules, but that was back before you came into the picture." And suddenly all the sad scenes become him with Mui, and they're making dumplings and eating food. And he says, "You helped me realize it for the very first time. Untruth's activation requirement, it's to be fond of the person within my sight. You were the first person I came to like without being strong or weak as a factor. So I need you to let me protect you a little bit longer." And we see that Fuko showed up. She got the prayer beads. Doesn't matter how she got them. Throws them over. Fang's like, "I see. I see why you split up, but you're wide open and now you'll die." And throws his missile spear again, which, falling onto heroes, they definitely should have stopped him from getting the missile spear again. It was impaled in them. They should have just been like, "All right,
how did he get this again?" And
Yeah.
he just goes over to fight him, and he's like, "Thank you."
Yeah. Well, the biggest issue is you can't keep letting Jack get the Shengon Wu over and over again. He's just going to keep using the same ones. Now, he loses them most times, but he gets the same ones back, and that's an issue. So,
fortunately, he keeps on going for that monkey staff.
yeah,
so,
it's never worth it. Mui grabs it, says, "Even if you change your appearance and you stop being you, I will continue to love you until my dying day." And the missile spear strikes. There's a gigantic explosion. Fang is smiling and saying, "Luck is now dead. So now it's time for your true power to..." Oh, and he's interrupted as we see Shen has stopped the spear and like basically not slammed it into Summer. And he just says, "It's mighty peculiar. All I did was come back to life. But I'm positive that as it stands, I'm the strongest I've ever been." And Shen has become a Jiangxi.
Yeah, his skin's a different shade, and he's got the talisman dangling from his forehead.
And his outfit's changed. He's got the hat
Yeah.
and everything. Yep. Didn't expect this to happen.
Yeah, it was an unexpected turn. I mean, I never would have expected Undead Unluck to have a hero that's, undead.
But now they have 2.
Yeah, what the hell? This is a great chapter.
Yes.
I really love some of the little touches in their conversation, like you mentioned where Mui is like, "I've got these pills." Like, yeah, I need to ingest those.
giant gaping wound currently in my stomach. So
I know it's funny there, but it's also sad because you can see this like desperation that she's acting with, like, "I don't want you to die, even though clearly you are basically dead right now," and she's still kind of in denial about what they have to do. I'm sure that this turn is going to add some sort of a complication to him as a character, but it's an interesting turn, and Undead Unluck has never been afraid to change things up. So
I mean, this potentially means he can't be part of the council anymore because he's dead. Yeah. And Mui is a negator, so they're going to need to replace his spot, potentially. I mean, who knows? I guess we might find out the rules of all this. Who knows? But
yeah. And of course, the battle thing is far from over. We still haven't seen his ability yet. It's and I do like, because like we've known about Untruth's activation requirement for a while now at this point. Like, it was like part of like the info dump when it started explaining his ability back when it
was Spoil Arc, I believe. Or maybe it was even when he first showed up with Unavoidable.
I think it was during the Spoil Arc.
Okay.
But either way, very early on, we've known what the actual activation requirement is. But it's interesting that because of the way Shen interacts with people, yeah, you could get that impression because the people he's most fond of are the ones that he wants to fight. Um, and so it's interesting to see that even this person who is as close to him as Mui didn't know about that.
Yes.
And it's also, I keep on being like, oh, they're so cute and stuff, but it is really sweet to have him just say like, you're the person that I like that has nothing to do with wanting to fight them. And it's a very sweet, and it shows that they have a unique relationship, even separated from everything else. So it's and then of course there's just like, I like how they put all the character interaction stuff front and center, and it's just like, how did they get the prayer beads? They just did. Fuck it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the best part. We don't need to. Maybe we'll do it as a flashback next chapter or something like that. But right now, the important thing was like, we want these two to have their tender moment. Let's not break it up by having to have a shonen fight to achieve something. They just got it. Here you go.
And then the final 3 2-page spreads are very cool and cinematic in the way that they unfold. So very good chapter from top to bottom.
Uh-huh.
All right. I'm trying to do that. Okay, yeah, I did read this chapter. All right, Boruto.
Nick, how could you possibly forget? It's the chapter where everything important happens. A bunch of 12-year-olds had a fight.
Yeah,
That was it.
Boruto, chapter number 58, The Right Job for Idiots and Bastards.
Wait, was that the chapter title?
Yes!
Holy shit.
It has nothing to do with what happens in this chapter.
Oh, man.
Features a 2-page color spread of like all the important people right now. And also the people, the Konoha kids who aren't important in the background there behind.
What are you talking about? Ino's kid is one of the most significant characters in this series. How dare you?
Yeah, but not nearly as important as Sumire.
Well,
she has a crush on Boruto, don't you know?
Yeah. Also, I love that we get a cover page to show off Code's aesthetic a little bit more. It helps to see him in a full color page. He's not actually featured in this chapter, but I will appreciate that the chapter does the next best thing, and they talk about him a lot. Everyone being like, Code's super strong and awesome.
I like how also Code is one of like 2 or 3 characters who realizes that he's in a group shot full spread, and so he's like striking the model pose. He's got the one arm on the hip that's crooking the cape out. He's like, yeah, that's right, this is the height of fashion.
He also wears open-toed sandals with leg warmers. So he's got quite the eclectic fashion taste.
What are you talking about, Chris? Rock Lee dressed like that, and he was supposed to be the most aesthetically pleasing member of all of them.
That is true. Rock Lee was a snack, so I guess I have to pull it back.
All right. We begin the chapter with Naruto and Boruto talking about the meds that Naruto got from Amado that could potentially suppress the ossification. They talk about the potential for there being side effects. And he's like, listen, I'm not going to force you to take them. It's your choice. But, so you have to decide about this. Think this over carefully. And Boruto just takes one and goes, hum. And Naruto's kind of freaked out, like, okay, side effects, potential. And Boruto's like, I was thinking. I just decided just now. Like, yeah, fine. He made the decision because he doesn't want people to get hurt by the karma, and he kind of goes over all that. And he's like, listen, I know that, this might be dangerous, but I've been prepared for the worst for a long time now. And that's why I decided so quickly. And, thanks for getting these for me. So Naruto's still worried about his kid. But it's a nice little interaction that they have. We cut then to later on when Team Sarada, let's call them that, are going to have a training session, which means that they're sitting around. Yeah, okay, so to get a little bit ahead of this point, so there's a dispute that happens in this chapter over the way that they should be training, and Kawaki proposes that they should be fighting each other in order to be getting stronger, and everyone else is in disagreement with him over that. But to be fair to Kawaki, at first glance, it seems as though they're sitting around in a circle doing nothing to
Yeah.
train.
The idea is supposed to be that they're meditating, but even in it, they don't ever explain like why this. Like they kind of just like it's chakra control or whatever. But it's like, I mean, there's other ways we know that they do. Like just the climbing the tree thing was like a chakra control technique.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just the idea this is the most efficient one. But
Very one if you're reading it though.
Yeah, well, it's also one of those things that's just like, why the fuck are we doing this? Like, why are we here, and why are these characters having to fight? Because to also jump ahead, Nick, this chapter sucks. It is very pointless for a lot of reasons. There's one good element from it, and it is not really addressed in the way you want it to be.
I'm not even sure exactly what you're talking about.
We'll get to it when it comes up.
So, we cut to this scene, and Kawaki is bringing up the point that because Boruto has apparently told them that he's taking medication for the ossification, and Kawaki, I mean, understandably, is like, well, what about our plan for karma and stuff like that? We came up with that shit, and Boruto's like, well, yeah, but I wasn't sure if we were actually going to do that, if we could realistically do it, and there's no guarantee, so I'm doing this in the meantime. It's like, fair enough. So. Also, they talk about code, and Boruto says, "I mean, we have a chance to win against them the normal way, right?" It's like, but then
no, he's too strong.
He's too cool.
You'll be blinded first by how awesome he is, and then he'll strike you while you're shined by his glamorous light.
First, you'll be struck by how glamorous he is, and then after your vision is cleared, you'll look down and see you're covered in straps, and then you'll be like, "Oh, I look so cool now," but then the straps will kill you.
You'll be like, "This is the best," and then you've been caught by his ability.
Just like Boruto and Kawaki are both just like, straps are so cool. And Sarada's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you guys?" Mitsuki's like, "I'm here too."
So then Mitsuki shows up a panel and a half later, and he's like, "What's up, guys? Sorry, the author forgot to draw me."
Mitsuki,
what's up with your sweet straps?
How did you survive Code's unavoidable attack? Oh yeah, he forgot to draw me for the panel. So then they talk about how unbeatable Code is for a bit, and Boruto's like, "Yeah, but that's why we're training." And Sarada's like, "Guys, shut up. We're doing nothing right now in order to train." But then Kawaki brings to the point, how long is this going to take? And so Mitsuki eventually like breaks into the argument as they go back and forth and says, "What are you saying we should do instead?" And Kawaki says, "I'm going to fight you in order to get you stronger," and it just starts attacking people. Konohamaru and Naruto are watching this.
Sorry, I forgot about this scene. Because Konohamaru is like, "How dare you?" and goes, and Naruto stops and is like, "No, I have life insurance on both of them. Let this happen."
They're both kind of my sons.
I have a lot to gain from these two killing each other.
Oh man, I'm so glad that I took out the infighting.
I was like, what a wise decision. I know it works out in the end because Naruto, the person who's writing Naruto in this scene is also the one who's writing how this scene goes down. But it is a weird moment of him being like, "No, let these children start screaming and fight each other with no guidance whatsoever."
Naruto just suddenly goes, "It's okay. It's only a VR simulation, and if they attack each other, they'll just, come back from that form because of gravity." Oh no!
Bring up the taskbars that show their stats. Just Kishimoto shouting from a golden throne.
This is how he writes manga now.
More spaceships! More! Sir, we're still in ninja times. There can't be that many spaceships.
Give Code more straps! Alright. So they argue a bit more. But Kawaki keeps attacking Mitsuki, and Sarada calls everyone stupid. He tries to attack her, and Sarada is like, "Alright, I'm gonna fucking burn you up then, asshole." And she launches a fireball. But before too much more can happen, and they're doing useless attacks back and forth at each other. And Kawaki looks like he's going to attack Sarada from behind.
I got very enchanted by the idea that at the end of this fight, we zoom out and, like, I don't know, like a bird flies by and we see that the battle has made a giant winky face in the ground. And Kishimoto was like, good. Every series will have this imagery now.
So Kawaki nearly beat Sarada because we gotta have that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if Kawaki tried to start some shit and Sarada just fucking
Sharingunned him immediately, and because here's the thing that still was very weird to me. Like, so are they Genin now, or are they still or Chunin now, or are they
I don't
Genin?
even think they're Chunin because that's like a whole thing. No, wait, did they take the exam at the start of the series? Whatever. It doesn't matter.
There was a Chunin exam at some point, but in my mind, I'm like, so why is Konohamaru watching this from afar, and Sarada is leading the whole thing if he's still kind of the leader of their group? And if that's the case, why does Sarada not actually have like a real stake in this argument, because it just becomes a pissing contest between Boruto and Kawaki?
So, yeah, Sarada concludes after Boruto saves her because she's useless apparently now. Man, I'm so glad that Kishimoto is writing this series now. That there's no point in talking Kawaki down from this. You've got to show him by force. And Boruto's like, all right, but he's mine. So we get a one-on-one fight between Boruto and Kawaki because their relationship hasn't changed at all.
So weird.
Since they first met.
It is such a weird. Look, I'll get to the thing that I actually do like about this. So ultimately, the reason why Kawaki loses is because he realizes he doesn't have karma anymore. And I thought there's something actually very interesting in that, you know, Kawaki has now sort of realized that without karma and how much of his purpose is tied to his strength, he's sort of trying to reason with the fact that even though he's cut out a very toxic part of himself with getting rid of the karma, he isn't quite yet realizing that it's actually a good thing, despite it making him less efficient in combat. And how kind of exploring that would be a way to kind of reaffirm where he feels and everything. But I don't feel the chapter actually, it grazes past that idea and then kind of just doesn't go anywhere with it. Now, maybe we'll explore that more, but it definitely felt like this was a good place to really start addressing that. Like, maybe he's lashing out because he's having trouble processing how he feels about his current identity at this point, or things like that, you know?
It's addressed more from a tactical perspective in this chapter.
Yeah.
In that he's like, I didn't realize I was using it as a crutch still, even though I don't have it. So I tried to use it, and it didn't work because I don't have it anymore. That's why he loses the fight with Boruto, which happens over about the course of like a third of the chapter, and I'm just going to completely skip it because whatever. It's not even worth. There's nothing interesting that happens that's worth taking beyond.
The best is the panel where the two of them punch each other, and there's speed lines going in the background, and you're like, but they're both being punched, so that really doesn't carry any sense of kinetic energy because they would be going in opposite directions.
We had a conversation on the Discord this week about how backgrounds in the Naruto franchise have deteriorated over time. So, like, you know, beginning has very beautiful different backgrounds, and there's like rocky terrain, like it's all Dragon Ball, and then it gets to Boruto and it's like speed lines.
Everything. The entire fight is just a series of speed lines. There's like one shot with a background that still has speed lines drawn over top of that. That was like, I guess that's the standout panel from this chapter.
So yeah. Boruto wins the fight, and Kawaki feels humiliated. He sees that Naruto has been watching the whole thing, and he's like, damn it, I wanted to protect him, and how can I do that when I suck so much, basically? And Boruto looks down at him, and he's like, there's one thing that's definitely changed since we first met. I can tell what you're thinking now, more or less. Don't carry it all on yourself alone. Lean on us more. We're your friends. And Sarada in the background is like, I never said I was his friend.
I'm also his commanding officer, essentially,
Yeah.
so he should just be listening to me as a natural thing, but whatever, I guess. Who cares? I won't even say anything in this entire fucking end of the conflict.
No, I have nothing to do with the way that our team is going to interact from now on, even though I'm the leader, supposedly. So Boruto keeps on talking for a bit, and he's like, you might feel responsible for Kara targeting Konoha and Dad, but that isn't really your fault. It's minusculely his fault. You're correct, but it's a little bit his fault. Just a tiny little bit.
A little bit.
Either way, we can't leave bad guys free to do whatever they want, right? That's what shinobi do. Are you... Boruto just said that shinobi are the cops, so... I don't know how I feel about Naruto in general now, so, yeah, okay. So, then Naruto concludes by saying, well, look who's sounding all grown up. It's like, he just got into a fight with the guy that's... Like, it would have really grown up if you didn't have this fight scene at all, and Boruto had actually broken the tension and talked Kawaki down.
Yeah.
Like...
Again, like, as you said, if you had not just used the fact that Kawaki doesn't have karma anymore from a purely tactical standpoint and had them talk about it, this could have been a much more interesting chapter. Instead, it's just something where, like, why did we cut away for these two guys to have a stupid fight? Like, I know that there is some kind of resolution to it, but it doesn't feel like it was one that was all that different from, like, the three other amicable conversations that Boruto and Kawaki have had in the last, like, half year of this manga alone. It's not like I thought their beef was kind of quashed at this point.
Yeah, I did as well. And it seems like this escalation of things comes really out of nowhere, especially because Kawaki is literally just going like, this is boring.
Almost as though that was the attitude of Kishimoto. He's like, have them fight! Like, the artist was like,
but what about the character development? Kishimoto's
fight!
Like, fighting! Speedlines!
I don't hear speed lines being drawn out there.
Whoosh, 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 whoosh.
That's right. More sound effects. Not in the manga. With your mouth. Do them while you draw.
So Kawaki, from his position on the ground, decides to be all cool slacker guy. Propping his chin up on his arm and stuff. And he's like, big lines like that would sound better coming from someone a bit more reliable. This dude saved your life multiple times, Kawaki. Fuck off. And Sarada calls him out as like, he just lost and he's talking shit. What the hell? So they put aside their differences. Yay. Boruto and Kawaki can get along now, finally.
Yep.
All right. And that's it. That's basically the chapter. So, yeah. Very weird, dumb chapter that it seems to have no place in the sequence of events that we've seen up to this point. And just like, even if you're drawn towards like, oh, but they fight, it's a really piss poor fight, even among Kawaki versus Boruto fights. So.
Yeah, it's one of those things too where you're just like, why did you even have Sarada and Mitsuki present if neither of them were really going to get involved? It's one of those things where you're just like, I mean, I know they're all part of the same team, but at this point, can we just like have Mitsuki fall down a hole so then Kawaki can become the permanent third member of team? Like, because she's just replaced him at this point. I know the anime does him better, but from what I understand, the anime does everything better in Boruto.
I mean, if they give everyone more time, that makes sense. I think that this thing would have been much better if there had been less of a focus on, well, we have to get each of the members of the team a little bit of time fighting Kawaki, and if instead, say, their head, hell, just have a very brief fight scene between Sarada and Kawaki, because she's like, all right, I've got to, show you that you're doing shit wrong. And maybe she's about to win because she casts a jutsu that Kawaki tries to absorb, and he's like, oh shit. And then Boruto saves his ass or something like that. And then he's like, listen, blah, blah, blah. And then he talks him down. And then you avoid having Sarada look completely useless as a commander and as a fighter, and you still have Boruto seem like he's mature in this situation because he talks Kawaki down. And no, we had to have this. We had to have the fight scene last 2/3 of the chapter or whatever instead. So, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
right, let's move on to Kaiju number 8.
All right.
Chapter 34. And Kafka's doing great right about now. He's in prison. We get a shot at the beginning of a bunch of the guys from Unit 3 just kind of hanging out in a parking lot, seems like. And they kind of start to have an awkward conversation, but then they get called in to meet with Mina, and she explains to them all that, or rather, she explains to them all off screen that they're going to be transferred to another division. And she says that this is a temporary measure because, you know, all those kaijus attacking resulted in a 75% reduction in the Tachikawa base's functionality. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Plus, there's the fact that, you know, all these Daikaiju have been targeting them over and over, and so she says the top brass suspect that this might be a series of continuing cataclysms, which means that there might be more on top of that. So, to prepare for that, she says, you all are key. We're taking every division's most talented rookies and training them across division boundaries. So, some of them start to object to this, but immediately Ichikawa speaks up and he says, I need to get stronger, so I'll do it. So, and everyone pretty shortly after that agrees to it too, in their own ways. So, we're going to presumably get a little bit of like, I went away and got stronger. So cool. Meanwhile, Kikoru has gone to meet with her father, the Director General, and she's very formal at the beginning, even though he is not. You know, he just calls her by her first name, and she's, you know, saluting and standing at attention, referring to him by his title, and she's puts in a request to say, repeal orders to dispose of Kafka Hibino. He saved my life, and I humbly suggest a lenient punishment. And immediately, he's not even looking at her. He's doing paperwork at his desk while he talks to her. He says, pathetic fool. Ashiro already reported that much to me. Are you here to tell me about your worthless failures? So good dad, right there.
Yeah, he's a sad dude.
So she starts to object, but he just tosses an envelope at her, and the envelope has x-rays taken of Kafka's ribcage. And he says, look at this. He's made the thing on the left side of his chest look like a heart, but it's a core. He's no human. He is a kaiju. And Kikoru clearly is caught unaware by this. She didn't know about this. And Shinomiya goes on to say, of the same scourge that killed your mother, a kaiju. If you understand, then leave. So he's not bitter at all. But Kikoru's not done just yet, and she instead calls...
Do you think he manicures and shapes his eyebrows to look like little fire or like flames, or does that just happen naturally?
I want to believe it happens naturally.
But I like to think he's like, gotta make myself look scary, and he's like, snip, snip, shape, 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 snip, 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 shape, shape.
Maybe he's just a really big Endeavor fan.
Yeah.
Like, he's also a great dad.
I like to model myself after great dads. Me and him, we hang out, we talk about parenting tricks. He's gotten a little soft recently, though, so...
If you don't pilot the Eva, Kikoru, then...
He hangs out with all the worst jump dads. Gon's dad shows up and is just like, wait, you guys visit your kids? What the fuck? Why?
Why would you fucking do that shit? So, Kikoru doesn't give up just yet, though. She calls the commander Daddy and says, even so, I still want to believe in him. He's a good friend. She believes in Kafka. Speaking of Kafka, we cut to him. He is in a much bigger holding facility than the one we saw him in before. There's all these wires running in from the walls connected to the seat that he is restrained in. And he just thinks about what Mina told him about how, like, hey, you know, if you can prove you're human, you might not get disposed. So cool. So Kafka's renewed determination now. He's like, I'll prove that I'm a human and I'll get back to the others. So first, I need to get them to hear me out. You sweet boy.
He's very, he really, well, look, he doesn't quite know what an asshole yet the director is.
The door opens, and the director, in a battle suit now, comes in. He's accompanied by a bunch of gimps.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Gas mask gimps, and some of them have got weapons trained on Kafka. Some of them are carrying equipment. And Kafka immediately recognizes the Director General, of course. We see that a few people are observing this, including some of the other directors, and as also Kikoru, since, of course, she came to the base to talk to her father. So Kafka starts like, "Oh, Director General, I assure you, I am not a Kaiju," and she's not even listening to him. He commands everyone to release Kafka's restraints. A scientist dude is like, "But he's really dangerous," and the Director General is just like, "Have you forgotten who I am? I'm Endeavor. I mean, Director General Shinomiya." But he also brings up the point, as Kafka is allowed to stand up, if he's really a Daikaiju class threat, he could easily break those manacles.
Yes.
So he points out that he's here of his own free will already. So Kafka's like, "Oh, good. Maybe he'll listen to me." And he's like, "Listen, I'm a human." And the Director General points a gun at him and shoots him like 5 times. Kafka is able to do a partial transformation.
It's weird because what's her name? Kikoru shouts out his full name. That's like if you got shot, I'd be like, "Nicholas Freeman."
It is weird in that singular moment that she doesn't shorten it remotely. That's how stringent and formal she is. Kafka manages to block the bullets with this partially transformed arm, but in the meantime, the Director General has rushed into him, and he uses his gauntleted arm to claw or crush or something part of Kafka's torso, and he says, "I'll let you in on a little secret. In this world, a life form that can stop bullets with their bare skin could never be considered human, Kaiju number 8. And as he's saying this, he drips Kafka's blood into a beaker to get a sample.
I like to think there's a scientist behind a glass who's like, he's gonna need to get another one because that's been very contaminated by his glove and everything.
Did you wash those gloves before? No, they're gloves.
It's just a scientist is like, just let him just act like you accept it, and then later go in and get an actual sample because that's garbage.
Sorry, I just need to. Here, can I just get? Thank you. Okay, thank you. Kafka's after this one, he's just like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine." As he pricks his finger to get the blood. So,
Keep Corey on the side. "No, Kafka, hit me, no!" Every time he gets mildly hurt, she just shouts out his whole name.
They let him go, and Kafka goes out into the hall. He's like, "Yeah, it's great to be out here." Stubs his toe. Kafka, hit me, no! So yeah, it looks like Kafka's situation is a little bit more dire than it was actually looking like it would be last chapter, because this guy's on the warpath. So
yeah, I'm still not. I mean, obviously he's an asshole. In my mind, I was like, if the only thing he wanted was to kill this guy and just start dissecting him, he would have done it already. So he seems to acknowledge that Kafka is here willingly, because he's like, "Look, you could have broken out if you wanted to, but at the same time, he's pretty mean." So I'm curious to see how more interactions with them go. I assume he's just going to be an asshole, but it's interesting.
It is conceivable that he is deliberately trying to push Kafka to make sure that he's not going to turn on them if they start to trust him. So he's like, "Yeah, I'll treat him like shit from the get-go, because then, if he stays loyal, then I'll stay loyal." But I don't know. Maybe he knows more than he's letting on about Kafka's profile or all that stuff. Or maybe he's just a zealot who wants to kill Kaiju, and he sees Kafka as a threat. But we'll see.
That we will. All right, Nick, let's talk about Eden Zero, chapter 144, Through the Looking Glass. And guess what's back, Nick? Pino's analysis. Yeah, we find out about Jin, aka Chris Rutherford. His little special thing is loves his sister is a 5 out of 5.
It disturbs me that that's a 5. I'd be more comfortable if it was a 4.
Loves his sister, but not too much. Just the appropriate amount. I'll say this. Of the big brothers who have doting affection for their little sisters in shonen magazines, he's probably the least creepy with it. So
yeah,
I'll give him that.
Pretty easily, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's never seemed to be like overwhelmed with excitement about her. He just seems like a very overprotective brother. So we'll see. Anyway, the actual chapter itself, we start in a big space battle. We are shown a bunch of characters who I believe are part of Oasis, but none of them matter. I only assume they're getting interactions because they'll probably die, and it'll be a way to make things sad, because specifically 2 of them are in a relationship and are kind of flirting over the comms as the fight's happening.
And of course, they're the 2 best looking ones, traditionally speaking.
Yeah, it's not the robot man or the tiny rabbit person. I don't know what that character is. Rabbit ninja, I guess.
His name is Russo.
Good. I guess,
We get the fun of battling in space and underwater at the same time. Only in the Yaoi cosmos, yo!
Is this a Vince Russo reference?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if I've ever heard him talk before. Is that how he speaks?
Yes.
Wow.
He's the most Jersey man you've ever heard.
Good for him. We also see, what's his name? The motorcycle guy actually has a motorcycle steering console in his ship, which is the only detail about this character that I've liked so far. Then Goodwin and Eraser have a talk, and basically Eraser's like, hey, yeah, I'm well aware of what's going on. We're not trying to get into your way. We're just here to help because it's the right thing. And although I'm not really excited about having a civilian organization get involved in this, I respect your conviction, so let's fight together. So it looks like that's what they're going to do. We cut over. Shura is still attacking the Eden Zero.
Before we move on,
okay.
The Eraser at some point betray everyone, or he's the most boring guy ever.
He's.
Oh, we're just here to help you out.
Yeah, right now he's just not Gerard, basically. And not in the not Gerard way that current Justice is not Gerard. Like, this is the guy who's like Gerard from Wish, basically. And you're just like, all right, I guess.
Man, we're getting to the point now where there's been so many Gerards who aren't Gerard in the hero canon. It's like, which not Gerard?
We're gonna do a top 10 list at some point. Top 10 Gerards in Heroes manga.
All right, so you're talking about the guy who was Gerard but not Gerard from
Elseworld Gerard,
or the one from Fairy Tail, or the other one from Fairy Tail, or the one from Ian Zero, or the other one from Ian Zero, or the one from Naruto. Is like, but Naruto? Is like, yeah, there was a Gerard in Naruto. Wait, you don't remember?
There's been a Gerard in a lot of series. You just don't realize it. We cut over. Shura has broken into the Eden Zero. Everyone looks like they're in a bad position. Shiki wants to try to go help, but the robots that are ganged up around him kind of jump on him to stop him. And then one of them's just like, I'm going to explode now, and activates a super fast timer. Like, I don't even know why I bothered to have numbers, because it goes down immediately. And
it might be in seconds and not minutes.
Maybe. So it just says, long live Master Shura, activates the self-destruct protocol, and a giant explosion happens where Shiki is. We see the 3 fighter pilots are just like, what was that? And Jin says, I'll go check it out. Or Chris, I guess, rather. Although I guess in this chapter they refer to his name as Jin, so I guess Jin should be the nomenclature being used. Back in the Hall of Mirrors, Homura is evil now. And I assume we're going to get a lot of Alice in Wonderland references based off the name of the chapter. But then I remembered it's Hero, so probably not. We get why she's just like, oi, what's gotten into you? And I'm putting it as British accent for a reason. Or I guess, because it comes up at some point. So they're like, oh no, she must have been attacked by an ether gear or something like that. Wait, she's holding her weapon left-handed now. What's going on? Moscow comes up and says, even horizontally flipped, you are my friend. And she kicks him in the face.
That's such a stupid line. And I wish that Mascoyo weren't already like the stupid comic relief character, because if this were, it would make the things that he's saying that are making fun of Shiki's obsession with friendship much funnier if they seemed more
Oh,
pointed.
he was fucking just dunking on him the whole time to our character's not there. He's just dunking on him in front of all their friends. Hey guys, check it out. I'm gonna be Shiki. Even horizontally flipped, you're still my friend. He gets fucking kicked in the face for being a bad friend.
Can you imagine how much more we would be into this if Moskoy weren't just a dumb, weird, funny character?
So Homura strikes at Rebecca. Rebecca bounces away. Happy's like, use your EMP, Pino. And Pino's like, I don't know where the enemy is, so I can't actually do that.
That's how EMPs work.
Yep. Rebecca thinks, okay, I could go back 90 seconds if I use reverse to just before she looked into the mirror, but in the worst case scenario, I might be looking at a mirror at that point, or I might, get to a mirror, and if I do that, I won't be able to use reverse anymore. Weiss says, smudging places! Don't take this personally, Amora! And,
Core blimey, Buckingham Palace!
Someone in our Discord pointed out that if you look at his line of sight based off where he's aiming the gun, they're neither, like, it's like one's going up and the other one's going down. So he's like, I'm using tranks, and then shoots her a whole bunch of times, which gives her a lot of time to slash the shots because he announced it first.
Sorry, Mura, I'm gonna shoot you now.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll do it.
Pino activates her EMP to take away Homura's swords, and Weiss has an opening now. But he looked into a mirror, so he's about to attack Rebecca. So Rebecca has no choice but to use reverse. However, she used reverse too late. She didn't catch it before Homura gets transported or turned or whatever. So she's like, all right, I just have to get going. We need to get out of here. Whatever you do, don't look at the mirrors. We'll figure it out later. So we cut over to Homura, who's inside the mirror, just saying, what's happening? My image in the mirror is attacking my friends. It cannot be. I'm the one in the mirror, because all the letters are backwards. And we're introduced to Milani, one of Oceans, who says, yes, that's the you from inside this world who's jumped out of the mirror to attack everybody. You see, my hunting style is to pick off my prey one by one. I bring them to my world to shatter them. And Homura says, is that so? I have but one hunting style, to strike down all who threaten my friends.
Okay, that's all right. It's real witty repartee, guys.
Not since Guardians of the Galaxy has such witty banter been played back and forth.
Yeah, well, it's a girl-on-girl fight, so I'm just kind of waiting for the shoe to drop. It's like, it's sexy now, so. But
I've used the mirror to reflect off your clothes. Like, I don't quite understand how this works, but since this is a hero manga, I'm going to assume this is just how this works.
Yeah, we'll see what happens coming forward with this. The whole thing with like, I kind of expected Rebecca just wouldn't use her time leap ability in this chapter when she brought up, I don't know if I'll time it properly, and then she did, and it turned out that she waited like literally like 3 seconds too long to save Homura too. So that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's whatever. This is a very whatever chapter in every facet that happens.
Nick, the new villain, she has sheer pants, so maybe the fan service will just be a lot of butt shots. I mean, we know it will, but maybe it'll be more than the usual amount. I mean, there's legitimately the shot of Homura banging on the mirror is the other side of her is just butt out facing the mirror. So, sometimes you just get that.
Yeah, it's like a very weird, like, my ass happens to be in the shot because I guess that while I was going after them, I decided to, kind of rub up against it as I was walking down the hall. When you think about the exact angle it is, God. Whatever. All right, it's an Ian Zero chapter, and we don't have time to talk about that anymore because it's very important that we dedicate all this time to instead talking about.
I forgot about ITLC this week.
ITLC Chapter 16, Carriage. So people are still recovering from Not Sonia's incredible escape that they explained in great detail, but were also mystified by simultaneously because it was such a clever series of tricks that she employed to get out of there. So the chief and his wife banter a bit, and his wife makes the note because she's taken a picture of Mar's face, when she was like posing, and she's like, it's strange. You'd think a phantom thief would at least hide their face. It's like, yeah, all right, interesting point. So, they try and pursue Mar to the roof, but the door won't open from the room that they're in because they're the most incompetent police force in the world. Mar is safely up on the roof, and she's like, that man's running late. Did he double-cross me? He seemed pretty useful, but I suppose I shouldn't trust my followers 100%. You shouldn't trust people you literally just met and just hired.
I'm stunned for how effective as a fucking thief she is, that she ever trusts anybody, and that she doesn't have another contingency, really. I guess she kind of does, because she's like, I'll jump off the building or something like that. But... yeah.
So, and of course, we see a shot of her meeting this person who's supposed to pick her up in the helicopter, but we only see them from behind in shadows. I wonder who it could be. So, yeah, and then she's like, well, if he doesn't show up, I'll just jump from this roof down to that tree. Yeah, it's a good plan. And
honestly, that's probably a better plan than having a helicopter fly to pick you up to fly you away, because it feels like that's a lot easier to track.
I imagine that there's another version of the series out there where they see that like she's rappelled down the building, and then we get like 3 pages dedicated to explaining what climbing equipment is to people. Well, you see, she had this piston and this hook, and so she drove an anchor into the wall using this hammer, and then she used this cord which can support this much weight, and she went down the lines. Yes, thank you.
Got it.
So, Mara realizes she doesn't have too much longer, but then she looks up and sees that Sakan was on the top of the stairwell roof thing.
Yes. The stairwell building. It has to have a name, right?
I don't know. So he was just standing up there instead of tackling her with the element of surprise, because apparently Sakan can't take anyone by surprise unless they think that they've like murdered someone and have a freaky girl stalking towards them or something like that. So he apologizes for not being Ms. Ayaoi, because he knows what's up. Mar mocks him a bit and says, do you honestly think you can catch a beauty as me? And Sakan says, beauty or not, if you're a thief, I'm gonna catch you. Witty repartee. Gotta love it. Gotta love.
Well, here's the thing.
Zingers that they shoot.
Sakan's not supposed to have them because he sucks and he's lame. So don't give him cool lines. This is the perfect line for him, where he's just like she's just like, she sets him up for something, and then he does not know how to follow it up. He's just like, I don't care about your gimmick. You have to be arrested. Punch you now. Wah! Like, just like as dried, as beleaguered as possible.
So Sakan goes to get Mar with the ultimate technique, the super telegraphed lunging straightforward grab.
It's also one of those, it's like, what police academy did they teach you this is to lunge out hand for... Ah!
Oh man, but I took all that instruction from those NFL players, and they said this is the best way to bring someone down.
It's legitimate, like if you wanted to flashback to like, all right, guys, we're going to teach you the best way to put down a criminal. And meanwhile, Sakan is just reading Ice Shield 21, and he's like, the trident tackle is the coolest move in all sports. That's the only way to bring a bad guy down, is to just slam your fist into them.
There is brief action. Mar dances around and like throws kicks and jumps off of Sakan and stuff. He blocks a kick and then he goes, "Impressive kick!" Okay.
I love fucking nasally lame Sakan. Like, it's the voice we tended to give to like loser characters, but that's just because they were like a little bit socially awkward. It's just a character you just despise. Just like, oh, great kick there, Mar.
Mar says, "Your zeal creeps me out." And Sakan says, "I don't care if it does. I'm just doing my best as part of the I Division to fight as only we can." I'm sure that they could get someone else to fill your role, Sakan. Like, honestly.
Well, Nick, who would be the muscle of the team? He's lost twice.
I could be the muscle of the team.
I was like, he's lost twice in the only 2 physical encounters he's had. So I guess
I would be just as effective as Sakan.
I guess he did tackle the bank robber in the first thing they were at.
They didn't need him to do that.
Well, I mean, that's a different point, but still.
So Mar says, "Well, that's very commendable, but I don't have time to play with you. After all, I have no intention of getting caught yet." It's a very awkwardly timed pause in her sentence. Also, there is like dramatic lighting behind her somehow. So, the helicopter is there, and it didn't make any noise up to this point, I guess.
Oh, it's one of those new age silent helicopters, you know?
She's going to escape over the roof in order to get to the tree, because the helicopter's not there yet. So she runs away from him, and she's like, "Oh, it's a shame I couldn't see the lovely lady." King! And she's like, "Wait a minute, something just grabbed my leg. I can't lift it. I'm losing my balance." And she's going to trip and fall over the side of the building. But Sakan...
If these magnets are as strong as they are, she is not gonna lose her balance. She's going to snap her fucking ankles.
Or her shoe will come off. So Sakan grabs her and is like, "Now I've got you." So Mara's like, "What did you do when I stepped here? It was like someone grabbed my leg. What did you do?"
I love how fucking dramatic she gets there. And then I want him to be like, "Magnets!" And she's like, "God damn it. Stupid fucking magnets, really?"
"This is a magnetic plate, one made to look like stone." And Mar goes, "A magnet?" There's the fucking bold typing, jagged word bubble. "A magnet!"
Not like her initial indication should just be like, "So much fucking work. Why didn't you just use a taser or something? You like custom built a fucking magnet panel and did you improve this with the building or anything?"
They think that they're like planning this ahead of time. And Akiraka is like, "Well, we could just throw a big net on her when she comes out of the stairwell."
Hold on, sir, if I may suggest. And he just has a big magnet. He just like sees the 2 snap together. Need I say more? Akiraka's like, "Everything. Here's the credit card. No expenses too much."
Chief is like, "Why did you spend all this money?" "Listen, I thought the magnet idea was way cooler than my net idea." Credit where credit's due. My next plan up was to throw a Pokeball at her, but I mean, I realized afterwards it wasn't gonna top the magnetic plate that we had to pre-install on one tile in the entire roof.
But Nick, at the very least, this was the crescendo to their whole plan, and it isn't made entirely irrelevant by what happens next, to the point where you'd even argue, why even have the magnetic panel?
So Sakan breaks down this whole explanation and says, well, that trigger you used to stand on the ceiling. Your shoes with the slots are key. If you're trying to support your entire body weight with normal shoes, they wouldn't be strong enough. But you could have made them out of metal with fabric on top to look like more normal shoes. So
certainly wouldn't hear that as she walked across the clank, 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 clank.
Oh, rubber soles cover that up. Come on. So we see the reason that Ms. Aoi was hiding out on the roof when she got there was so that she could hide under one bench so that then she could test to see if she had metal on her shoes by letting a magnet snap onto them while she was hiding under the bench. So it's a good thing she sat on that bench and was hiding on that rooftop doing nothing instead of infiltrating the museum in any other way. Afterward, while you were in the ceiling, they didn't do this ahead of time. They did this while she was infiltrating the museum. The two of them went on the roof and replaced one roof tile with a magnet.
Thank God she went to that exact tile, too. That she didn't have a long enough stride to have just stepped over it.
She's like, and now for my lucky getaway tradition, I'll jump over the last panel. They're like, oh,
Sakon's like, that was $4,000. It cost us $4,000 that panel.
So Mar says, well, wait a minute, but I only revealed my trick a moment ago. Are you implying you already knew it? And Sakan makes actually a really good point, which is, we used the same trick on the truck the first time we ran into you, so we did that. But she says, even on the truck, I took the fixtures off before I left. There shouldn't have been any evidence. Like, you were walking on the ceiling, though. How many methods are there to walking on a fucking ceiling?
Also, there'd be large imprints of where the screws to hang the hinge were still on the truck. She's like, no, I used tape. Scotch tape.
So now that Sakan has used his unbeatable strategy of grab someone, they're not going anywhere. So Mars like,
well, specifically, she's like, oh no, he's physically stronger than me. I can't shake free. You're like, I guess this is the one time Sakan's working out has been effective.
Yeah, I do all of those grabbing people weightlifting sessions.
I guess she has no techniques to get it. She's so good at everything else, but she's like, he's grabbed my one wrist. I'm helpless now.
Yeah, you gotta imagine, like, all that training she does for hand-to-hand combat. She's like, oh no, I don't have any strategies for awkward from behind hugs. He's not even securing a limb or anything. Oh, okay, I guess he's got one arm, whatever. But he's like, just kind of like, loose hug. So, but then, oh, the chopper is here. And so the escape helicopter is there. And Mara's like, oh, you could be any later. And Sakan's like, a helicopter. And Mara goes,
a helicopter, he has to know, is driven by Aoi. Which again leads us to the question, why would they even do the part where she stops and gets stuck by the magnet? Because it is not how this situation ends. I guess you could argue the idea that the helicopter needed time to get there. But again, you're writing the series. You could just write that the helicopter showed up when she got to the roof.
But then I wouldn't have gotten to do anything. Yes, exactly. So Mara celebrates. She's like, that was close, but the show was a victory. And she flies off on the ladder attached to the helicopter.
Oh no, someone put a magnet on the rope ladder. I can't get off now.
Oh, curse these weighted shoes I wear for training. The police get the door to the roof open. Homura goes to Sakan and she's like, if only we'd busted down the door a little sooner. And Sakan says, no, I wanted her to board the copter. I was just trying to slow her down. Still, I did get spooked when I actually saw it. Fucking worthless.
I got scared when the helicopter. I expected something.
There was a big
You're the
thing in the
worst
sky
guy.
that was making lots of noise.
It scared me. You're the worst cop in the world. You're the worst, and like, holy shit. It caught me off guard. I may have peed myself a little, but it's all according to Keikaku.
So Mar gets into the helicopter, and she's like, "Hey, you're late. Explain yourself." And of course, wouldn't you know it, who could have called this twist in the last chapter? Ms. Aoi is sitting in the helicopter flying it, and she gets a big full-page spread to reveal that she is the pilot and not that one guy that Mar met before. And Mar goes, "Huh? You're that girl! Why are you flying the copter?" And so we cut to 6 days earlier, and she's like, "Oh, wow, so you have a helicopter, huh?" And wouldn't you know it, it's the one guy that Naomi and Stakhan went to meet a couple chapters ago that was part of their plan to catch Mar. Oh, he showed up, and the mysterious person we saw at the beginning of this chapter was him. Who could have seen this coming?
Well, Nick, this does pose an interesting thing, because do you remember this character's one gimmick?
He cuts things in half.
I hope this helicopter splits right in fucking half for no reason. Like, it's just, she's like, what does this button do? And then it just snaps open. And they're just like, why? Why did you do this?
Ms. Aoi closes the chapter by saying, "Calm yourself. I'll explain everything. After all, we're finally getting a moment to ourselves." If the next chapter is a full chapter for explaining how they knew stuff, I hope that it is going over the most inconsequential, obvious bullshit for 18 pages. Nothing else. No dramatic interactions, last-second escape attempts, no action beats, nothing. Just explaining obvious shit like it's the most clever thing in the world. Please. Oh, God. This is a terrible chapter, and I fucking loved it. Oh. All right. Oh, calm yourself, Nick. Okay.
Gather yourself. It's time to talk about a fun chapter about Magu-chan, God of Destruction. Chapter 44, Madness versus Fate.
This was a very silly little chapter, yes. Yeah. So, Muskar comes across Naputaku while he is finishing up at his part-time job. He's pulling trash out to the garbage man, and Muskar's just like, "What is he doing? What is he doing?" But Naputaku is just like, you know, being friendly with the garbage guy. He's like, "Oh, hey, it's the starfish who works for the Fujisama family restaurant." He doesn't care at all. And Naputaku's like, "Yeah, you should come try my cooking sometime." It's really cute.
It's very adorable.
So he's like, "I've got the day off today. Maybe I'll go somewhere." Yeah, Naputaku.
Everyone's so excited.
He like goes open up a little magazine while he's sitting on his trash throw.
He's
like,
so
eggs are on sale.
He looks so fucking happy. I love I like think back to not that long ago when I was just like, fucking who cares about Naputaku? If it's all Magu-chan chapter series is worthless. And now I'm just like, Magu-chan's my precious starfish toddler, and if anything bad happened to him, I would burn everything to the ground. Look how fucking happy he is.
Muskar like follows Naputaku around for a little bit, I guess, and he's just like, it was like, oh my god, he's just acting like a lowly human. And Naputaku doesn't recognize Muskar because A, he doesn't really know who he is, and B, he looks like a human. So he's like, "Oh yeah, the restaurant's not open yet, so you can't come in." And Muskar is like, how can you do this? You've debased yourself. And Naputaku's like, "Hey, why are you so rude?"
Fuck you.
So he brings up like, "Oh, come on, you're Naputaku the Mad." And Naputaku just says, "If you've got a complaint, I could go get the manager for you." So Muskar introduces himself, and then he's like, "Oh, I've never heard of you." So they go off because Naputaku is like, he's like, "Oh yeah, you're trying to recruit me, huh? Well, I've already got a mission. It's called part-time work."
He's not wrong.
He's talking about how great part-time work is because he can go and buy ingredients to cook. So Muskar is like, "I see. Well, then follow me, Naputaku. I shall give you what you want. And he brings him to a gambling den. And he's like, no, 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 I've learned my
Aww.
lesson about gambling. No, no, I don't want to lose my money again. But Muskar grabs him with his sleeve. Okay. And he's like, oh, but with my power over fate, any chance turns to certainty. Playing a game you win 100% of the time isn't gambling. Surrender yourself to fate. And hours later, Naputaku's just surrounded by all the money he's won from playing pachinko over and over. And he's now just like, no, no, I can't stop hitting the jackpot. Why? Why?
Oh, poor Naputaku.
Yeah. So Muskar's like, hey, my power's pretty great, right? But after they're done, Naputaku's like, oh, cool, money.
That's great. Money can buy lots of food.
This is me. So Muskar's like, come on, what do you got to use all that money for? He's like, yeah, I'm going to go ingredient shopping. So they go to the store. Naputaku's pushing his little shopping cart around. And he's like, well, since you're with me, I'll treat you to some money. And Muskar's like, I'm the one who gave you that money.
It should be noted that as we pass over it, this is the first note that we have that Viz has actually changed the way they're translating Magu's name. It is still going to be Magu-chan, God of Destruction, it looks like, but Magu's actual name is Magmanuik instead of Magu-manuku, I believe. So
it's pronounced with a U because of Japanese pronunciation. Yeah. So that is the official pronunciation. So he is Magmanuik, but Magu-chan. So Muskar just kind of like is starting to reach his wit's end. So he's just like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you out shopping? You're an evil god. Come on. And Naputaku's just kind of like staring at him. He's like, I'll make you something good to eat later. So calm down. Such a nice, stupid little starfish. They come across Ruru as well. And Naputaku gets along with Ruru, and he's calling her like young Missy and stuff, and it's very sweet. They're talking about ingredients that they're here to get. Muskar is like, so Magmanuik is not with you today, and Ruru brings up that she made food for Magu-chan yesterday as a thank you for the surprise that he was going to throw her, and she wasn't really satisfied with the review he gave it. But then again, who would be satisfied with any of the reviews that Magu gives? He's always just like, well, this has ingredients. So she feels, miffed because she feels like, oh, I worked really hard on that. And, he didn't seem very appreciative of it. And Naputaku brings to the point of like, oh, yeah, he never seems to call anything I make tasty. So they decide like, little Missy, let's have a match to see which of our cooking can enthrall him the most. And so like, yay, cooking battle. And they're going to go and do a silly thing. And Muskar is like, what the fuck is with these people? I hate them. I hate them all so much. They invite him to join the cook-off. He's like, no, I hate cooking. No. But Ruru says like, okay, we'll do the rules like the last match we had where the winner, the loser has to do whatever the winner says. And so immediately Muskar's like, I'll force them to join the Chaos Cult, and then I'll get Magmanuik on my side too because Ruru will have joined. So Muskar might also be a bit of a dork too, just thinking, so.
Yeah.
They get home. Magu-chan is already ready for food. He's got a fork and spoon and a bib. It's nice that he, has some manner of table manners now. So they have the cooking competition. Muskar, of course, is terrible at cooking. Like, he tries to chop a carrot with his sleeves, and when he pulls up the carrot, it's like still got the edge opposite the one that he chopped down into, so it's all in one weird diced up piece. And Muskar is like, look, food prep isn't something that superior beings do. Then the same goes for cooking. His sleeve catches on fire on the stove.
I do just like Naputaku being like, you haven't cut that at all, fate guy. Like, you just spot over and just fate dude.
So Naputaku is very confident he's going to win. Ruru is like, I'm gonna get Magu-chan to say he likes my cooking, and Muskar's like, my victory has been ordained by fate. So he's using cheats to hack and stuff. They present their dishes to Magu-chan. Ruru's up first. It's an eggy natto omelet. It looks very tasty. Magu eats it, and his body gets all, like spiny and stuff. And Ruru really doesn't like his review, which is spoiled beans and undercooked hen's eggs wrapped together to create a high-protein sludge. Goopy, sticky warmth brought together to make a jiggly concoction. Because he didn't say if he liked it or not.
Yeah.
So.
And he describes it in the grossest way possible.
Yeah, pretty much. Nabutaku presents Pudding a la mode of madness!
It's got little cute things in it.
It's got little octopus guys in it and stuff. Magu eats it. He turns into a little pudding again. And it's very cute. He's like, this unstable soft tower looms over a menagerie of sweets. It brings to mind the folly of lowly humans. Also, Nabutaku says that he garnished the pudding with candy prizes from the pachinko parlor.
Good for him.
Aww. Muskar is like, ha, you two know nothing. It isn't cooking that Magna desires. He wants something more than nutrients, to revive his diminished reincarnated body. Cooking is the art of manipulating the laws of nature. By stirring and applying heat, I took the resulting substance and using fate, souped it into something that would provide the most nutrition. This is the offering that I bestow upon you. The ultimate complete nourishing food. Supplements in a pot. And it's just a pot that's just got glob.
Oh, God.
So, of course, Ruru and Nabutaku both realize it looks horrible. But Magu starts to eat it, and he said, this is an ominously blasphemous provision. From this concentrated bog of pollution, I sense unfathomable chaos. And he takes a spoonful of it, and he starts to bulge out and expand immediately. So Ruru grabs him and, running with him over her head like Batman with a bomb, chucks him overhead outside. He explodes. And then she strings up Muskar with a shaming sign that says, I made Magu-chan blow up. So Muskar's like, how did this happen? My power over fate should have made it the best. And a narration just says, the adjustment of fate cannot make the impossible possible. He is too bad a cook. So Nabutaku says, just because the dish is good doesn't mean, just because it's nutritious doesn't mean it's good, you idiot. I'll tell you what your cooking lacked. You see, the most important seasoning in cooking is love. Muskar summons a tornado and blows him away.
Oh, but he was right.
And Magu-chan afterwards tells Ruru, because she's like, which was the most delicious? They were all possible.
They were all fine. They were all adequately fulfilling.
This was a fucking great chapter.
It really was. It was a fun chapter. A lot of the jokes were really good. There was no Daenerys, so it looks bad. Now, I feel bad because it feels like I dunked too hard on Daenerys, but it is amusing. I was like, I really enjoyed this chapter, and then at the end, I was like, there was no Daenerys. Weird how that works out.
And there was plenty of Nabutaku in his ultimate form. So.
Oh yeah, he's so cute. Look at that guy. I want a plushie of that guy now. Like that little Starlight with his big fucking happy ass face.
There's something so amusing to me about Nabutaku of all characters going like, the most important ingredient in cooking is love.
Such a little dumb little fucking nugget. I love him.
Oh boy. All right. 9 Dragons Ball Parade, Chapter 14, Shiro Shiratori. The dragons are practicing together. Azukita is doing like the fielding practice with people he's leading instead of Kareen. It's probably a good idea because he can, actually control where he hits the ball. A bunch of people from the school have gathered and are watching from, the sidelines and stuff. We see a little bit of fielding happening. It's like, oh, cool. But the most amazing one of all, and we see Tsurugi hitting a deep fly to the outfield. And they're like, wow, he's gotten the best of Ryudo's best fastball now. And everyone's like, wow, he's great. And Tsurugi's still being like, hey, that nearly split my bat in two. So, Ryudo's still impressive, but it's just that Tsurugi seems very clearly to be like their ace at this point. And Azukita's like, hey, it's not just the two of them. Everyone's getting better. And those two in particular are evolving by pushing each other. So with Ryudo's pitching, with Tsurugi's batting, these guys could be the foundation of our team. They could lead us to victory. We could beat Hakuo. We could go to Koshien. And everyone's, cheering them on from the sidelines and stuff. And Azukiya gets up into it. He's like, yeah, all right, shout it with me, everyone. Hakuo's going down. We're going to Koshien. And someone is snickering from the audience.
In, like, the grossest panel, like, you zoom in, like, he has his teeth and, like, the details on his lips, like, ugh.
Ooh. And it's Shiratori from Hakuo, who, of course, last chapter was sent in the most evil, dramatic way possible to scout this team. And he steps forward and spreads his arms out, and he says, truly a wonderful team, setting your sights on a pure goal and sweating on the field together. Beautiful. And Azukiya, of course, recognizes him and introduces him and talks him up. He's the first Hakuo first year that's donned the ace pitcher's jersey. His total ERA at Koshien is 0.6, which is absurd. It's to give you an idea, that is a total of 3 runs allowed over 5 games. So very good. So he steps forward and introduces himself. He's very formal at first, and they realize, he's been sent here by Hakuo, and he says, sadly, due to my ignorance and lack of expertise, I'm afraid I can't assess your abilities merely through observation. Therefore, I wish to make a humble request. And he points to Tsurugi and says, would you be willing to engage with me? And it's kind of weird because the first panel that he's pointing to him, he's got his palm down, and then when he points to him in the next one, he's palm up. So he kind of like points and twists, presumably, which is the most anime thing I think you can do. Yeah. So he says, if I could win, if I can hold my own against your most excellent hitter, perhaps I'll escape a scolding. And he's acting very clearly like disingenuously polite and snooty and stuff. So Azukiya's like, does this mean that we're on their radar now? Ooh. So he tries to figure out what should I do? I mean, maybe he could gain knowledge if he does this, but on the other hand, we could also learn about him. But Tsurugi makes the decision for him. He's like, hey, let me do this. I'm going to learn what to expect from a Koshien level pitcher. So they get set up. Azukiya catching for Shiratori while Tsurugi bats. And Azukiya's like, yeah, Tsurugi has the potential to really learn from this. Was what I thought. And we cut ahead to the practice, and they're like, yeah, Tsurugi hasn't been able to hit a single pitch after he's thrown 14 straight pitches to him. And now Shiratori's looking very kind of snake-like. His entire face is curved in different directions because he's smirking so much. And Tsurugi's like, I can't see them. And, we get, like the hawk staring down its prey, but it can't spot the ball that's coming towards him. Because it's a fastball that is incredibly beautiful and like a thread stretched taut. But on top of that, it goes inward after it's basically been going on a straight line for much of its trajectory. So it banks in this impossible rapid fashion in towards him. And so he's like, and Azukiya's like, I can't even catch these balls properly. He's throwing at such an advanced level. So this is Shiratori's cutter, his extra pitch that he does. So, and yeah, they're like, oh man, this is the level that he's at. This is Hakuo's ace. And so after Tsurugi's been thoroughly defeated, Shiratori's like, oh, that was most edifying. I look forward to meeting you again in a game. But before he can leave, Tsubaki's like, hey, you jerk! Tsurugi's got this! He can hit him! How dare you waltz in here and you just... And Tsurugi's just like, Tsubaki, I can't hit them. There's no point continuing any further. And he looks thoroughly defeated, like all the brightness is gone from his eyes. And Azukiya looks at Shiratori again, and Shiratori, of course, is smirking, and his lips are doing something. And Azukiya realizes he didn't come here to gather data, or to stoke the flames of rivalry by demonstrating his superiority. It's nothing as deep or intentional as that. He's like a cat playing with a bug that happened to cross its path. He's simply taking pleasure in toying with someone weaker than him. And yeah, so Shiratori leaves, although not after one last, fuck you, where he's like, oh, I'm sure you're just being humble. And then he leaves.
Yes.
And, Tsubaki's like shouting after him and stuff, but he just keeps on going. And he says, goodbye, my Kokuryu's-on friends. I quite look forward to your defeat of Hakuo. Yeah.
And then we get a shot of a baseball bat hitting a baseball, and the series ends.
Yeah, it was an effective introduction of, a rival that they can strive towards because he's so much better than them. So
yeah, they had to introduce somebody who's much, much cooler, give them somebody, kind of build up the main antagonist first. I mean, Hakuo is definitely going to be their final opponent at some point. Who knows if we'll ever see any kind of real conflict between them, but, it was a good introduction. I do like the idea that he wasn't there to scout them, and he's not there to see what their hidden potential is. He just wants to fuck with them because he's a mean, shitty cat, basically. Now, should note, mean, shitty cats are still good-ass cats.
Yeah.
But, still kind of a shitty cat.
Yeah. If you were an actual cat, you'd just be like, oh, that's adorable how he's humiliating those guys and crushing their dreams.
I feel like a lot like a cat today, Nick, because I've had a weird experience of bugs today.
Why is that?
So, stink bugs?
Yes.
I woke up this morning, I felt something on my face. Oh, no. And I immediately was like, bah! And it moved. And I immediately just grabbed it and threw it across the room. And I was like, that was a stink bug because it smells really bad now. And I was like, all right, whatever. Then later in the day, I saw a stink bug walking across my desk. And I was like, all right, well, stink bug. I hope not, because I definitely crushed part of it when I initially scratched at my thing.
In addition to being smelly and annoying, I also regenerate.
Yeah. Oh man, like a cockroach? No, this is the opposite. So I grabbed a piece of paper because I was like, look, I didn't want to kill this one. So I was like, I'm gonna grab you. I'm gonna put you on this piece of paper. I'm gonna carry it, and I put the piece of paper outside. And I was like, cool. All right, enjoy life outside now. I go back later because I'm like, oh, I should grab that piece of paper because it's about to storm, so I don't want to blow away and just litter. So I go out, and I was like, I hope that bug's having a good life. He's fucking legs up dead in the air on the piece of paper. I was like, shit, man.
Thank you, giant traveler, for leading me out to safety. Now I can live in the outside world.
I was like, I thought you fuckers were sturdier than this. Aren't you supposed to survive in the world when we die? Like, no, that's cockroaches. We die so easily.
It turns out we're allergic to paper. Well, comes from trees. Yes!
I was like, was the sun too hot? Are you that fragile? I was like, what happened, man? It was 30 minutes.
I can only survive in toxic environments. Why?
I felt bad. I was like, shit, man, I guess I'm the cat today. Just killing all these bugs.
Oh, boy. All right. Speaking of nature, Dr. Stone, Z equals 197, a stony Eden and its forbidden fruit. Last time, after years of failed attempts primarily, Suika was able to revive Senku with her revival fluid. And of course, she is now considerably older. She's a teenager now. And we get, a brief recap of that saying I failed over and over again. We get this brief collage of her getting older as she's trying to refine the fluid. Senku, of course, now he's waking up. He's looking around at her stuff and like, oh, okay. Yeah. You made a field for making nitric acid from poop. Yeah. It takes a lot of time, but as long as you go slow and steady, you're 10 billion% guaranteed to get revival fluid. You did good, Suika. Suika's like, yay, someone's talking to me. But Suika admits that she only made enough for one person, and she's like, yeah, so I used that dose on you. And Senku's like, well, I mean, you got your priorities straight, so good job there. And then he says, okay, time to do my first scientific craftathon in 7 years, so get excited about that. And he goes through the process and uses a completely different process. And he's like, all right, all done. It took him 1 day what took her 7 years to do.
Now, to be fair, he is a super scientist. And she has been operating all this time without working glasses, so.
But I totally understand where she's coming from. It took you 1 day. Oh, gosh. But Senku's like, hey, it's just a different method. And as long as we've got platinum, it's a piece of cake. I swear, if after this happens, Suika makes it like a thing where she's like, can you teach me like more of this stuff? Can you just like make it mandatory learning for everyone that they have to learn how to make revival fluid in case this happens again? But it takes them a day each to make each different dose of nitric acid so they can make revival fluid. So after a little bit more than 2 weeks, they have enough to revive everyone. So they go around waking up people. They revive Kohaku, and there's a short little sweet moment where Suika says to Kohaku, "We're about the same age now, so I guess that you can't exactly give me a classic Kohaku hug anymore."
Bitch, fuck that. Get in here.
Kohaku always have little sister, so it's very cute. And Senku's off in the background, like, I don't care about this. And then they revive Ryusui and Francois, and they start whipping stuff up. They revive Chelsea and Luna and Taiju and Ukyo and Gen and the two guys whose names I don't really remember.
Carlos and Hyde, I think, or something like that.
Maybe it's the other one. Carlos and Tom.
I thought it was Carlos and Hyde.
I don't know. I can't remember. And Kaseki.
Why do I keep thinking that? There's something to Hyde, I think, that I keep mixing up when.
Thinking of Hyde and Closer?
I mean, there's a football player called Carlos Hyde, but...
Oh, possibly, huh?
Yeah.
So Kaseki's revived, and then he's like, every time you petrify me, my creaky bones feel better. So if you keep on doing this old fossil might live to see the end of this adventure.
You shut the fuck up, go ahead, Kaseki. You're gonna live forever.
Oh, I'm dying, Christopher.
No, you're not. Stop it.
I had cancer in 12 parts of my body before this adventure.
And the stone fluid got rid of it for you. Nope, it's made it even worse.
Turns out there's one thing it doesn't cure, and that's cancer of the pancreas.
No! Keep him in stone, we'll find a cure.
Oh no, you'll make it worse! So, while Kaseki's talking about that, Chrome's just like, I had a thought, to keep Kaseki alive a little longer, we could have just left him petrified, because once we're dead for real, it's not like the Medusa device could bring you back. And Tsukasa, in the weirdest way possible, has a meaningful looking at someone talking as he's cracking out of stone.
Yeah.
I heard that important plot point. So, Tsukasa wakes up too, and he immediately says to Senku, "How's Hyoga?" Because, of course, Hyoga was the last person that Tsukasa was looking at, and he remembers the state that he was in at the end of their battle. And so Senku says, yeah, he gets the revival fluid. So they're like, yeah, okay, here we go. Everyone's going to be all together again. But Tsukasa's looking at this thinking, can Hyoga really be revived, though? So, oh man, did he actually die? Like Tsukasa thinks. They pour the revival fluid on him, and Hyoga's fine. He just stands up. And
I like that they also made him, because they gave everyone little leaf clothing, but they made sure to give him a little leaf muffler to hide the bottom of his face. He wouldn't want to come back and have everybody see his chin.
Yeah. So everyone's like, yay, cool. And Chelsea is like, hey, Hyoga, say your thing. Come on, say it. Say it, Hyoga. Say it. Say it. And Hyoga's like, you've done well. And Chelsea's like, yay!
Remember, Nick, that classic Hyoga line that he always says? That thing he always does?
He does say it occasionally, yes. But Chelsea acting like it's a big thing is just can you just not be here, please? Just
guys, I think we have to free somebody again, and it's Chelsea.
Turns out she's got cancer in the parts of her body. There is an incredibly brief, we went hunting and got food for you guys. Hyoga and Tsukasa just whoop and come back with pelts and giant animals on sticks. And so they have a big picnic barbecue thing to celebrate everyone being back together. And Ryusui's like, yeah, we'll resume our journey tomorrow, but tonight we feast to victory. Because, hey, good job. We fucking won that conflict. Good job, everybody. And there is also a kind of vaguely depressing shot of Luna being like, Senku, love me! And Senku's like, good job, Luna.
You did nothing. You were supposed to be very capable, and then you threw the one revival fluid away and lost to 7 years. Thanks.
Too bad Senku is low-key really nice. Or yeah, he could have just said that, couldn't he? Chrome brings up the point to Senku's like, hey, you still got those cracks above your brows. I thought the petrification was supposed to get rid of those. And Senku's like, yeah, I guess the erosion got preserved. Yeah, I guess so.
So it's just Inagaki being like, I think it looks better with them. Or Boichi, I guess, rather than be like, I like drawing them.
Absolutely. It's like, I'm not getting rid of these. Fuck you. It looks like they might have gotten rid of the marks on Ryusui's fingers, though. So, all right. So, however, again, kind of realizes something that's going on. He just says to Senku, hey, Tsukasa took a little bit of a stroll to the water wheel hut. And then he kind of distracts everyone so that Senku can go off and have a private conversation, which, of course, immediately Chrome stumbles across because he needed to go and take a piss. And there's this big dramatic shot of them standing out, and the moon is full over their heads because, moon, Y-man stuff. So, and Tsukasa says to Senku, since he lost consciousness, Hyoga himself had no way to realize that back there, he was really dead. And Chrome overhears this from his place in the bushes. He's like, what the hell is he talking about? And Tsukasa says, enough time passed to be sure that my eyes didn't deceive me. And Senku's like, oh, I believe you because, you're Tsukasa. So he thinks about it. And he says, ever since you snapped my neck and I put you into cold sleep, been tossing around a hypothesis. And now we've got solid proof from this unexplained, death-defying experiment. And Tsukasa silently agrees. The petrification can even nullify death. Which means at this very moment, we, the humans of Earth, all of us, are now immortal. Y-Man's Dr. Stone is a scientific taboo not meant for humanity. Our own forbidden fruit.
It is an interesting question because I feel like at some point they're going to have to address the ethical implications of potentially keeping people alive forever just by resurrecting them every time they die. But it is a very curious quandary that's now been presented, and I think that's going to be interesting to see how it play out.
Yeah, the only way we've seen the people stay dead is if their remains are eroded to the point that they can't be put back together. Yeah. So, yeah, this definitely seems like it's a big change, and potentially it could have implications for, the origins of the petrification beam and why the Y-Man is doing what he's doing and all this other stuff. So we will have to see where all this goes, but it's an interesting reveal, definitely. So,
all right, let's move on to Mashle, Magic and Muscles, Chapter 63, Mash Burn Dead in the Tall Tower. Innocent Zero and Wahlberg are squaring off. They've unleashed their Bankais and a bunch of swirling energies around them. And Innocent Zero basically summons a bunch of zombie monster things to attack. And he says, I have no need of anyone but Mash Burn Dead. I shall end you all here. And all these monsters come out. Wahlberg does a spell, does some kind of magic, and basically frees Mash, Lance, Margaret, Gahanna, and Dot, who has a very dumb expression on his face, from the sleep that they were put under. And he just says, I will explain everything later. Protect the students. So he is going to die in this encounter. There's 100% certainty he is going to die here now.
It really seems like he's going to die, yes. I've been getting those vibes since last chapter.
Yeah. So they have a bunch of little tiny fight scenes. Gahanna just says, Innocent Zero's here. I've got to assist Wahlberg. Oh, but they're tough. Each one of them has the strength of a double liner. Why are there so many? And Lance says, move your wand, not your lips. So he says, you've left this in the hands of so few. And Wahlberg just responds, I'd be more worried about myself if I were you. And does something, I believe, sends them into the air. And he says, "Here we will not be interrupted." So there's some concern on the ground because they're not really clearing these things out as much as people wanted. And they're like, "Oh, well, support will come. We just have to hold on." And then there's a giant spike ball in the air with a giant spiky tower under it. And they're like, "What the hell is that? Oh, shit, what's going to happen if that falls on us?" And they're like, "Oh, I see the magic user behind that huge spell. He's up in the sky. I mean, way up there." And it's Cell War. We see like a bunch of battles happening. Everyone's like, none of them are going after sweet little Mash. Yes, he's being lured into a trap. I suspect they possess a surefire way to stop him. And Dot's like, "Whoa, seriously, how do you do that?" Margaret says, "My woman's intuition." Dot says, "So you're a girl? I was wondering about that. So I guess Margaret's trans, or just has a very feminine or masculine appearance some of the time."
Don't know. I mean, it's not like her uniform is any different.
Well,
so
I have to go back because I was like, I was sure they did use male pronouns before, but I might have just been mistaken on that, and maybe I've been fucking up here. So.
Well, and even if they did, it is possible that it could have just been an assumption made by the translators because of the way the pronouns are used differently in Japanese and English. But yeah, so it's like, all right, they're a girl.
There you go.
Does that mean they're a trans? Does it mean they're androgynous? I don't know, but they are definitely a woman because she said so. So
yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to see who actually said. I guess Margaret's actually one who says it too. Anyway, leave this place to us. For real, you're the only one who could defeat Innocent Zero's heavy hitter up on that tower. I guess it's Dot actually.
Dot
so
says that. I do like Dot's reaction as well. I was like, "Oh, you're a girl? Okay."
So Mash dashes forward, sees the tower. And Dot has like a thought like, "Oh man, it's going to take him too long to get all the way up there. Plus he'll be a target the whole time." And Mash just starts kicking sections of the towers away. And then like after he kicks it, the tower falls to fill it. And he just keeps kicking sections of it away. And he's like, "Oh, okay, we'll just play Daruma Drop with the tower. Cool." And kicks it off.
I like how an idea from early Bleach that Ichigo came up with in order to defeat a Menos Grande which was considered too silly and impossible by Ishida, Mash is actually going to use, and it was successful because Mashle.
So Cell War has encountered Mash. He says, "We meet again, Mash Burn Dead. Destroying my tower did nothing. You must defeat." And Mash, the greatest panel ever, looks off to the side. He's like, "Yeah, it's been a while. We sat next to each other at the entrance ceremony, right?" Because he does not remember this guy at all. And I love the little lines under his eyes show just how nervous he is about this as he's racking. He's like, "Yeah, hey buddy, what's going on?" I legit almost gave Mashle my series of the week just based off this panel because holy shit, it's funny.
I wondered when I read this, like, did they actually sit next to each other at the entrance ceremony? And then I had to look back and was like, oh, we never saw the entrance ceremony. So if it turns out that they did in fact sit next to each other at the entrance ceremony, then I wonder if that makes this even funnier if that's what Mash thinks instead of when they actually fought.
I love it's the lines underneath the eyes that gets me. It really shows how panicked he is about the, yeah, buddy, it's been quite a while.
We meet again, Mash Bernadette. Yeah, we do. Buddy.
Hey, I remember you. We went to that Spanish class together. Yeah? And then just Cell War's face. Like, you fucking forgot me?
My name is Cell War. How do you forget that?
Great chapter.
Yes. Let's go on then to the Elusive Samurai, Chapter 17, Education, 1334. I guess I called it. So a double sword wielding warrior approaches Tokiyuki's group. Ayaka and Kojiro are trying to defend Tokiyuki. They're standing off against him. They engage in battle. Speedlines everywhere as their swords clash. And Tokiyuki's like, oh man, he's so skilled and fast. And Genba is immediately like, we should leave. Especially because those guys with the torches, they're going to surround us. So we should leave while the two of them are fighting him. But Tokiyuki watches as Kojiro and Ayako fight against this guy. And they're holding their own, even though he's clearly superior because, he's going 1-on-2. And he's like, oh man, those two have grown so much stronger than they were 6 months ago. And they're moving much faster and more powerfully than the way they're training me. He's like, wait a minute. So he flashes back to some of his training sessions with Kojiro and Ayako. So like Kojiro, he knocks over while they're practicing with, wooden swords. And Kojiro's like, hey, you beat me about once every 5 times. Well done, young lord. And then Tokiyuki's like, oh, well, you'll get hurt if you don't take me seriously. And Kojiro's like, yeah, I need to stay on my toes. And then, also training with Ayako. And she's like, oh, wow, young lord, you're even forcing me back. And he's like, well, you train me, Ayako. And when I'm adult, it'll be my job to protect you. And Ayako's like, doki doki. But then she pats him on the head while she's blocking with his sword blows, which is kind of funny. So, and suddenly Toki's just like, wait a minute, they've been going easy on me for months. It took him this long to figure that out.
I do love that. Wait, hold on. Her being like, oh, I can't. You're gonna one day be so much stronger.
Oh,
and
no.
him like, ah! And him just like, wait a minute, am I not the strongest?
I'm not a big, strong boy. And we get that this flashback from Kojiro and Ayako's perspective of Yorishige talking to them and saying, Tokiyuki's powers are not absolute. He is peaceful at heart, which breeds in caution, and there are many attacks he cannot dodge. Veteran warriors with much experience, unusual warriors with strange abilities, and warriors crossing the bounds of humanity. When confronting such monsters, even Tokiyuki may be unable to escape. You two must stay sharp and continue to grow as samurai so you can protect your lord against any enemy. And we get this shot of the two of them fighting against each other with scabbards over their katanas, training much more intensely than they did with Tokiyuki. So, yeah, now Tokiyuki realizes how much stronger they are, and he recognizes their abilities and is like, I really respect them and envy them. And someday I, too, hope to fight so boldly. At that moment, however, as all three of them have their swords pressed up against each other in a way that sword fighters actually very rarely did, the dual wielder happens to look past Tokiyuki and he sees Shizuku behind him. And so he disengages and he's like, is that Shizuku? And she's caught by off guard and he's like, yeah, you fed me once. And now she recognizes him as Fubuki. And so immediately Fubuki lays down his swords and he says, forgive my insolence. I didn't believe you were from the Suwa Grand Shrine. The other two seemed like such beasts that I took you for enemy scouts. And Ayako and Kojiro are both like, who you call a beast? It's like, it was kind of a compliment, but okay. He introduced himself and he says, I wander the land in search of a lord to serve. Okay. Yeah. So, but he says that he arrived at the village 3 days ago, begging for food, and the village was under attack by a group bearing Ogasawara's standard, so I aided them. Small groups came 3 times, but we managed to defeat them. The villagers were in trouble with no supplies or horses to send for help. And so Kojiro's like, okay, so the villagers are holding up the torches over there, huh? And they're cowards who make you do all the fighting. And Fubuki's like, well, don't be too harsh on them. And he summons them forward, and all the people wielding torches are little kids. And he says, yeah, when I got here, the soldiers had already killed all the adults. So, yay! The series is for kids. So they realize, oh, so if you're the only one who's actually been fighting, that means you actually wiped out all 3 forces that came and attacked you. But Fubuki is humble and he says, no, these kids, they were indispensable because they've been distracting the enemy with torches, they lured attackers into pitfalls, and they've been manipulating decoys and stuff. Even small children can learn to do many things. I'm gathering knowledge and polishing my skills and searching for a strong lord who can use me, but Perhaps I am more suited to evaluating and cultivating the skills of others. If only I could find a lord who is in need of instruction. And Tokiyuki's like, that's me! I'm a lord who's in need of instruction! And so he realized, like, oh man, this guy must be incredible, because if he taught all of these kids who had just lost their parents to get this good this quickly, with his help, I could, reclaim the shogunate, and he can secretly teach me swordsmanship, and then those two will look at me with admiration. I do really think that it's cute that, like, not reclaiming his, position is the most important thing. It's like, my friends will look up to me.
My friends will think I'm cool.
We cut away from the scene then to the group responsible for sending the warriors who've attacked this village. And apparently a survivor from one of these attacks that Fubuki has repelled has reported back. And the leader is very cross with him. And he's like, 5 warriors should be enough to destroy a single village. Yet 3 raids on that village have not returned. Casually beheads the guy. And then picks his head up on the sword and lets his blood drip down onto his head and then drizzle down into a dish for kids.
Also, he's covered in ants.
Are those ants?
Yeah, because, like, they're all...
Oh, yes, they are.
It's...
Okay.
I was like, that is by far the most fucking disturbing thing about him for me, is, like, the ants congregating into essentially a black hole around his chest. It's like, that's fucking horrifying.
Yes. And this man says, if looting villages as bandits isn't going to get us any sake, we'll return to battle as warriors.
All right.
I believe that this was the guy that we saw meeting Ogasawara before. So,
I believe so. Interesting scenario. I will have to see what this new character's role is, because it sounds a little too good to be true.
Mm-hmm.
So part of me is almost waiting for, like, a shooter drop. Because, again, we already talked about, like, he already has instructors. So why would they introduce the characters like, I could be an even better instructor for you for the same things? But
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Maybe he'll just be killed. I don't know.
Possible. And maybe he'll fulfill more of a specifically teacher role, while Kojiro and Ayako just are more focused on specifically just being Tokiyuki's retainers and bodyguards. But I don't know. I guess we'll have to see how it all fits together.
All right, Nick, let's wrap up this week then with Black Clover, page
Yes.
293, Smash Injustice. So we open the chapter with Luck dashing through the Spade Kingdom Palace, saying, this magic, it's... And then we cut back to the fight with Magna and Dante. And Dante's just like, how dare you? You punched me in the face. You put my back on the ground. And we get a little bit more. He basically, like, summons a bunch of rocks to try to attack Magna, who breaks them all aside, and then he makes a sword, presumably out of gravity magic, but immediately it just becomes kind of a punching contest again. And he just says, go ahead, steal half my magic with an underhanded spell, then start a fight on equal terms. You'll still take damage while I constantly regenerate. In the end, our original specs are completely different, which is a weird term to use, but I guess specs still works there.
Well, you see, while Tabata has been trying to take it easy, Kishimoto's been riding Black Clover.
He's like, you've seen your stat bars, right? Your characters have stat bar upgrades, don't they? And tech trees that they evolve into.
And you can just make one, turn the 8 into an infinity. So.
He just says, you're not the one. No, a grotesque creature like you could never bring me supreme joy. And Magna says, yeah. Well, thinks to himself, yeah, that's right. I'm just a peasant. I wasn't born awesome like a noble or royal. And I'm not Luck. He's a commoner, but he's got incredible instincts. Ever since he reincarnated as an elf, he keeps getting stronger too. And I'm also not like Asta, because he's got 0 magic, but he does have anti-magic, and that stuff's fucking broken and ridiculous. All I've got is, and we see a flashback of him meeting Yami and being like, hey, Yami, why did you let me join your brigade? It's like a very conveniently timed flashback, because it happens right after they went to the Heart Kingdom. And Yami's like, looks like we'd have common interests. Magna's just like, oh, I see. And then Yami says, Also, because you look like the gutsiest one out there. So Magna thinks to himself, I will never, ever lose when it comes to guts. I can't stay down. I busted my brain to come up with this magic strategy, and I trained for it like crazy. You've got no right to complain about it. And we just get a slugfest between these two characters. I'm going to blast you to smithereens, loser. And Dante punches him in the face, and he's completely healed, and he just says, do you see now? This is reality. Unfair, unequal reality. No matter how an inferior like you struggles, it's all pointless. And then all of his magic vanishes. And he's like, what? Where? The devil's power is gone. What happened? And Magna just says, not a thing, you moron. You and me are both just out of magic, that's all. And I bet in your entire life with your monster magic, you've never ran out before. So if you've never had to fight anybody who has as much magic as you do, you didn't even realize you were burning through that much. Dante's like, my own magic's tapped out, so I lost my connection to Lucifero as well. Magna's just like, now you can't use any decent spells. He's like, I can't use gravity magic or my super regenerating. And he tries to counter. He's like, but neither can. He just gets punched from below. And Magna just connects right at Joy. He's like, no, I cannot possibly lose. Not me. Not to a nobody like you. And Magna just thinks to himself, shut up, you psycho. And at that,
well, and he also throws a cross across Magna's face, and Magna just kind of like twists back against it.
Yeah.
And punches him harder.
It is an awesome shot. We then see Asta, Nature Boy Flare, and Luck show up. And particularly, we close in on Luck and Asta, who witness as Magna is standing victorious over Dante, the soul chain disappearing as Magna cries out in victory. And that's how the chapter ends.
It's pretty awesome.
It is
honestly
a great fucking chapter. It's sincerely like an amazing sequence. And I love finishing it off with Asta and Luck being there to witness this victory. Is a very nice touch.
Yeah, their peasant trio buddy has just fucking kicked ass and beaten one of these three guys, you know, who he was not supposed to be the one to beat.
No, like Nature Boy Flare's right there, and he wasn't able to beat him. And Jack the Ripper, the great hero Jack the Ripper, also was not able to beat this guy. But then a lowly pleasant like Magna did it.
So what we need next chapter is literally for Zora to just go up to Jack the Ripper and like, hey, you couldn't fucking beat that guy, but that peasant did. How does that make you feel? Ooh, my magic can code anything.
Yeah. Sucks to suck, nerd.
What did you do? Nothing. Fuck you.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of discussion about this happening on the Discord, and people were like, yeah, this is great. It's kind of weird how, like, when Black Clover was really good last year and it was setting all these cool things up, this was not one of the things that was set up at all, but it was still awesome.
Yeah, because, like, we kind of know that Yami is going to have to be the one to take down Zeno, and it seems almost 100% guaranteed Noelle will take down Verica. But, like, Dante didn't exactly have the same thing. Or if it was something you're like, oh, I guess Asta will beat him for revenge on Yami. But it's like, no. The one member of the Black Bulls who's big, like, has always consistently gotten, like, the least focus, instead got a super cool and important victory over him. And it's so satisfying. Sorry, not Yami.
Yeah. I got a little confused, but I eventually put it together. But, yeah. So, it is one of the rare instances because we talk about Black Clover, and I'm always like, it's like, yeah, it was cool in the moment, but I wish it had been set up and stuff like that. But this was literally just so cool and satisfying. It's like, I don't care that we had no idea Magna and Zora were even going to show up until like 2 chapters ago. I don't care. He punched this dude until he got too tired, and then he fell over.
It's such a great way of ending it, too, where he's just like, you've never run out of magic before, have you? You've always been so blessed to have seemingly endless reserves, but now that you've run out, you don't know what to do.
Yeah, but you can't use any magic there. Oh! Yeah, it's cool. I have nothing negative to say about it. It's great.
So. Yeah, great chapter.
that is it for the series this week. Unfortunately, One Piece is off this week. We'll have to find out what happens in that whole very complicated scenario next time. So we've got to figure out what our favorite series are this week, and there's no shortage of good picks. I feel like
I prior to this was really considering Undead Unluck for my series of the week. But I think I'm gonna give it to Black Clover. I really, really like this chapter of Black Clover. It's so much cooler reading it in the moment too.
yeah. For the sake of probably never going to do it again this year, yeah, Black Clover.
All right, mark it on your calendars, guy. May 26, 2021. Nick says he's never gonna give Black Clover another chapter of the week.
So there you go. If you, my advice for Black Clover being great is forget all this. I have 3 different types of magic bullshit. Have them punch each other.
Yes,
and that's it. So
that is a surefire way to win our hearts. My
character MVP.
Character of the week. I'm doing do the tree-peat. Magna's gonna get my character of the week. It's just too awesome of a scene for him.
I am going to go with Sakan from I Till C because he was so helpful.
That'd be fucking really funny if you did.
I'm going to give mine to Naputuku because he was absolutely wonderful in this chapter of Magu-chan and very amusing. So
excellent. The audience, by the way, agreed with us on Black Clover and then agreed with me on Magna for the character of the week. So a very big Black Clover heavy award week. This I think was a really great chapter. So I'm glad it's getting the love it really deserves.
Stands out all the more because we've been pretty down on Black Clover compared to more recent times. So, all right, guys. Excuse me. What a time for that to happen.
Oh my.
That is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap. We want to thank you guys for tuning in here on twitch.tv/RoloT, where we record the show live on Wednesday evening, starting usually around 7:30-ish. If you want to stay updated on when exactly the show goes live, however, you can follow us on Twitter @RoloT, @NickHFTime, and @WMR Podcast. And you can also join our Discord channel. We will let you know when the stream goes live, and you can join in then. And through that Discord stream, you can find all sorts of fun stuff. There's a great community on there that has discussions of the manga as the chapters come out. When Jump comes out on Sundays, for example, there are discussions about the manga that are being recapped at the time. And there are weekly gaming meetings, which is kind of in flux right now as people are trying to figure out when is a day that works for a lot of people. But great.
Well, we still do Saturdays. That's still a thing. There's just an interest in also finding another day that works for more American, I guess, audiences who maybe don't want to wake up at like 9 a.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah, seriously.
But come on, guys. You were used to it. You woke up for Shaolin Showdown, Jackie Chan Adventures. You can't wake up for some Among Us and Scribblio or whatever.
Also, you can use that to find the Google Doc that is maintained by Ninja X3i, which keeps track of all sorts of stuff associated with the podcast, including past recommendations and MVP votes and all that stuff. And also, it has a spot to leave recommendations for future series for us to go through. So, very helpful information doc there. We also would like to thank people who help make the show what it is. Our supporters on Patreon, patreon.com/weekly manga recap, who allow us to create bonus content with your financial support. Thank you very much for that. Steve Mann, who creates artwork for the show. You can find his work wherever boobs are allowed to be drawn on the internet. And Milo Jack Stilitz and Wednesday Del Cheddar for creating the opening sequence of Weekly Manga Recap as appears on our YouTube channel. YouTube is one of the many places that you can find Weekly Manga Recap, along with iTunes and Spotify and basically anywhere that podcasts can be listened to. weeklymangarecap.podbean.com is the podcast hub, basically, for us.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to do it then for Weekly Manga Recap this week, everybody. I guess, go watch your basketball game or whatever is going on.
Yeah, whatever's on right now. I don't know.
I don't know what happened. Normally we finish this and I'd be like, maybe I'll watch the last 15 minutes of AEW, but
yeah.
Now I guess I'll just stare at the floor a while. Like, what's going on down there? Oh my god, I should really clean. Goodbye, everybody. I guess that's it.